Welcome to the Hendrick Hudson Board of Education meeting. Tonight is Wednesday, October 24th, 2018. And just as an aside, may I please wish every single board member happy Board of Education Appreciation Week. So on behalf of myself, and I would like to thank all of you for your service and your dedication to our district. Can we please pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our first order of business is to have our agenda in order. Can I please have a motion to approve our agenda? Second. All in favor? Can I please have a motion to approve our consent agenda, or does anybody have anything they want to pull? Okay, with that being said, then can I please have a motion to approve our consent agenda? Second? Second. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, now we have donations. Donation. I will when we get to get it ready. Yeah. We have one donation totaling $1,110 for Furnace Woods Elementary School. This is, again, a matching donation from an employee of New York Life. And we thank you so much for your generosity. And that money is going to Furnace Woods. So we thank whoever did it, and it's very generous. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have audience comments, I believe, on non-agenda items. And please, if you haven't signed in, you have to sign in if you wish to speak. And I'd just like to say that the Board of Education welcomes public comments at this portion of the meeting. To maintain orderly and efficient meeting, the board has established the following guidelines for those who wish to address the board. Each speaker is permitted 3 minutes for their comments and must be recognized before they come to speak. All comments must be directed to the Board of Education. The board will listen to comments and input, but will not necessarily debate or discuss your items. Operational matters will be directed to the school administration for handling. The board is not permitted to address any items to do with personnel or individual student matters in open session, so please refrain from any specific names of teachers, administrators, going forward. The board will limit repetitive comments in order to give time to others wishing to speak, as well as to maintain meeting efficiency. Thank you. If you wish to speak, please give your name and make sure you've signed in. Everybody? Okay. Then moving forward, then we have the superintendent's report.
Yeah, a couple updates because we do have a number of presentations tonight and a number of students who need to get home and do their homework, so we're going to move this along. No homework?
No, lucky.
You are lucky. Kiss your teacher tomorrow. So a couple updates. On Saturday, this past Saturday, Buchanan Verplank had their annual PTA Fall Fair. They have raised so far about $8,000. They're not done collecting yet, but that was a great event from noon until 4 last Saturday. The weather cooperated. They had demonstrations outside. They had a dunk tank. They had cotton candy machine, they had the hamburger man, they had the karate folks doing demonstrations, the cheerleaders were there. It was an outstanding.
Dunk tank.
The dunk tank, yeah.
That was great.
One of the, well, they cheated. They had the dunk tank, and they filled it with hot water. So it
glad
was,
to hear that.
yeah.
to hear that. I didn't think about
Well, you know. This Saturday, the 27th, Furnace Woods will have their fall fair. That's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you can make it out to Furnace Woods and support them, the weather is a little iffy right now, but hopefully the rain holds off. It will be chilly, but want to make sure we support Furnace Woods. And Frank G's fair is in the spring. They usually do their fair the weekend before Mother's Day, so they're busy planning as well. We received notice not too long ago, a few days ago, about 16 of our Hendrick Hudson High School musicians were selected based on their auditions last spring to participate in Area All-State. Area All-State are the best and the brightest musicians that will perform at SUNY Purchase the first full weekend in November. We have 16 students between the choral program, the orchestra program, and the symphonic band program. That's a pretty good number, a pretty good percentage of our kids will be representing Hendrick Hudson when they perform the SUNY Purchase. So we congratulate all of our staff, especially those who put instruments in their hands as little or as young as 4th grade with squeaky clarinets and voices that maybe not be fully developed, but it's a great honor to have our kids be able to perform. And in the next day or two, we will send out to all of our families the lanyard, which is our digital newsletter. We've mixed it up a little bit. We've changed the format so it's a little more reader-friendly for those who read the lanyard on their mobile device. So you'll be able to follow along on your phone a little bit more for those of you who do your computer business by phone or iPad rather than by opening an email. So that will be coming out highlighting some of our district initiatives and all the good news happening in schools, as well as some save the dates, because before we know it, we'll be in holiday concert season, and the middle school has their fall performance, their dramatic performance. So we're going to send that out in the next couple of days, and mark your calendar for a whole lot of important events that will take place between now and the new year. Next week is Haunted High School, a fundraiser for a couple of the different organizations at the high school. A lot of noise, a lot of spookiness, a lot of costumes, great opportunity for our elementary kids to have an experience at the high school with some of our older leaders paving the way. So come out and support any of our initiatives. This is a lull in terms of athletics. Most of our seasons have finished. A few continue. Volleyball continues. Some of our swimmers will continue.
You speak up a little bit. I can't hear you back here.
Our athletic season is over for the fall. It will begin again for the winter in mid-November. So tryouts will start second week in November, and pretty soon you'll be able to go watch our Sailors compete indoors. So I'll leave it at that so we can get to our youngsters.
And I am just going to switch committee reports for after the presentation and discussions, considering that we have younger people presenting tonight. So
yep, I'm going to turn it over to Margaret. We're going to
switch
switch because the second presentation on the agenda we're going to flip and have them go first. So Dr. Margaret Roller, our Executive Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, will kick off this portion of our presentations.
Hi everybody. So you all know that we've been working with Carl Anderson, a very well-known writing consultant. Carl works around the world, but he has been working with us this is his 4th year, this brand, 4th year. So in the course of last year's work, he was writing his next book on writing conferences. This is a very handy book for teachers, and asked if he could use our BV students as part of his video conferencing. And we had a couple of gracious families that agreed to that. So I have with us this evening 2 young men that, as Carl likes to say, he helped make famous. And they're going to talk a little bit about their work. If you'd like to see some of the video, we pulled it up for you. Yeah? Okay. And I'll pass around the books. You can, yeah, that would be great if you could. Can you see it? This one? Yeah. Would you all mind if I turn this light out?
No.
So this first young man is Giovanni Beltran. Giovanni, come on up here. Woohoo! So Giovanni is in second grade this year. So obviously when this was done last year, he was in first grade in Mrs. Perel's class. And he is, you want to tell them what you were working on when you started to work with Carl? Would you like to read what you wrote down? You want me to read it for you?
Come on, you're a star. You're up here.
Read it with me. Come on. What does it say?
Hi, I'm Giovanni. I'm a second grader in Miss Fawcett's class at BV. I have been using the writing project that Mr. Anderson has been teaching the teachers for 3 years. I started in kindergarten with Mrs. Maldonado. She taught us to draw action in pictures, how to add more details to our pictures in writing, and to write different kinds of stories like fact books and opinion books. Then with Miss Perel, we took our learning from kindergarten and expanded it even more. We took our small moments, ideas, and we wrote more by stretching our words across the page. My favorite writing was my book about baseball. It was a non-fiction one where we did research and used many resources to help us find our facts. I then was chosen to be a part of Mr. Anderson's book. Now in the beginning of second grade, things have become more independent in our writing. We are still using things we learned from kindergarten and first grade, but already it seems like we will expand on our ideas and really turn our writing into published writing pieces.
All
Very
right.
good.
So this video clip is of a one-to-one conference with Carl, and as Giovanni said, he was writing an all-about book on baseball. And the gist of Carl's conversation with him will settle on the fact that he wants him to work on a lead into the book. So this is about 6 minutes long. And Giovanni, after we're finished talking also with Matthew, Giovanni and Matthew are going to help me teach a quick lesson to the board on writing territories. So let's take a look at Giovanni's conference.
How are you?
Good.
How's your writing going?
Good so far.
What are you writing about?
Baseball.
So you love baseball, I take it. So do I. So how's the writing about baseball going?
Well, first we're starting about like what you need to play, then
Yeah, you kind of have a...
what places they are in.
Okay. So you kind of talk about what you need to play, and you're talking about places, and so you've got different sections, it sounds like, right? So anyway, so that's great. Looks like you also have some hitting instruction in here too, right? And also some stuff about pictures too, right? Okay. Anything you want help with in writing a nonfiction book?
Not really.
Something you wish you were a little better at?
Pictures.
Pictures? Well, looks like you got a strategy for that, right? You are drawing some pictures and you've got some nice detail, and you've also been finding pictures from magazines, I'm gonna guess. Or you print them out?
Yeah, we print them out.
Yeah, it's one way of illustrating also, that you use graphics that you find online. So that's a smart move to make. So how about this? You know, I do think, one of the things that strikes me about your writing is that you do have this beautifully, you know, this book that is beautifully put in different sections, like what you need and where it takes place, and the batting and the pitching. There's, you kind of, at the beginning of another section, a special section to any book that I want to teach you something about. Okay? I noticed the first sentence you went, I want to teach people about baseball. What's happening in that sentence? What are you doing in that sentence?
Telling somebody something.
You're telling us what the books can be about, right? And that's one way of starting a book. You can say, I'm going to teach people about baseball. So let me just ask you, if your teacher started a day like this, I want to teach you about math. I want to teach you about reading. I want to teach you about such days. You getting really excited now? Really? You know, I'm going to guess your teacher says it in a more interesting way. She's going to try to get you excited about what you're doing. And I think one thing you can do is you can write an introduction that hooks your reader into what you're going to write about. It just excites them so they want to keep reading. You ever see a trailer to a movie, like you see just a little bit of a movie that's coming out in 6 months, and you go, I gotta see Star Wars. Look at that, there's like just 30 seconds of that happening. I can't wait till that movie comes out. And it's almost like you want to write a little trailer in the beginning so people get excited about your book. So I thought I'd show you one really interesting introduction that's kind of fun, and I think you'll see what I mean, and maybe you can try this one out. There are a lot of ways of beginning nonfiction books. This is just one of many, but I thought I'd just show you one and see what you think about it. Okay, this is not about baseball, it's about sharks. Okay? And it does not start by saying, I want to teach people about sharks. Okay, look how it starts. What is quick? What is quiet? What has 5 rows of teeth? What glides through the water? Jump! It's a shark! What did the writer do there?
They kind of got the reader entertained a little bit about sharks.
How? What did the writer do to get you entertained? What is quick? What is quiet? What has 5 rows of teeth?
They were telling about the animal before they actually said what it is.
Yeah, and did they just tell us anything about the animal? What did they tell us?
They told us some facts about it.
Yeah, I think those are really cool facts. Like it didn't say, what has a nose? What has eyes? It's like, what's quick? What's quiet? What has 5 rows of teeth? What glides through the water? I'm beginning to think, oh my gosh, something's coming. Jump, it's a shark. I thought that was really exciting. So what this writer did is something you could do. You could ask some questions, you know, kind of little riddle questions about baseball. Like what is this? What is that? And get us interested. And then, just like you said, name that it's baseball afterwards. Okay, it's a really fun way of bringing you into a nonfiction book. Okay, so let's try that. If you were going to try something simple, describe, what are a couple things that you could say? What is blank? What is blank? You know, about baseball, what you think is an interesting fact?
Really, it's too much stuff.
There's so many things. Like, what's one really cool thing? Like, these are cool things about sharks. What's something really cool about baseball? What's the thing you love the most about baseball when it happens?
Watching it.
What are you watching that's really exciting? Okay, what can you watch? Where do you watch it?
On TV.
What can you watch on TV? What's another cool thing about baseball?
It's just exciting
What's the exciting thing? Get me interested.
watching my favorite players on TV.
What are they doing?
It's just hitting, pitching.
Oh, okay. So, what can you watch on TV? What has players doing what?
What has players pitching?
Pitching. What has players batting? What has
players in the outfield?
In the outfield.
It's baseball.
It's baseball. Okay, beautiful. That's one way of coming in, and that could be a really cool way of beginning. So you think you could try that? Okay, let me give you a post-it note, and you could just write it up.
So, somehow it froze, but that's okay because you're very near the end. So Carl's going to give Giovanni a Post-it. Giovanni's going to take it back and he's going to try that approximation. And later on, there is a second video where he brings his book back to Carl and shows him what he did to create that introduction, right? Unfortunately, Giovanni couldn't find his baseball book tonight, otherwise he would have shared that with us. But the work that Carl does here is intended really for teachers, and there's a third video in this series where he annotates the conference for teachers and explains the moves that he's making with Giovanni to make his writing more exciting, to what we call elaboration in writing. And, I mean, come on, he's a little kid. Look what a fabulous job he did. So good for you. Matthew, come on up, Matthew. So Matthew this year, Matthew Mason, is in 5th grade. grade, so he was in 4th grade last year with Mrs. Kiernan when he did his video with Carl. Would you like to tell them a little bit about the book you were working on?
Yeah. So, I was writing about opinions, like opinions that we would want to change in the world, and I was writing about no more homework. How I didn't want any more homework. So, he asked me how it was going, and I said that it was good. He read a little bit, and he said that he really liked my read and that he liked my opinion. And then he showed me a passage about no more summer homework written by an adult and gave me ideas to add examples to my opinions. So he sent me off, and then I added an example to my first opinion. And then when I went back with him, he told me how to stay on the subject of school, since my first opinion was we stay in school for half of our day and then go home just to do more. And so he told me to stay on the subject of school and for my example to be like what we learn in school, and we just have to do it again at home.
Okay, can we take a quick look at his clip? Okay, sit down. Thank you, Matt. Thanks, pull it back to the beginning. It should be right there, see? Right in the middle of the page, Matthew.
Where is it?
Click in the, see where, now go down, see, the pictures are loading, so you'll see it. Just click on the one on the left.
Conference?
Yep.
I think it's on their side, our side.
You want to let it load or you want to skip? Close that out, Laura, and go back to the main page. Pull it up here. Scroll down. Let's try the middle one. Maybe it'll come up faster. Do this one first. This is when he came back. Let's see if it'll play. It's not cooperating. Awesome. Well, I will say this, Matthew, because I've watched the videos, Matthew did a dead-on presentation of what happened in that conference, literally word for word. And he did go back and he added examples to the reasons why we should not have homework, because we do all that work in school, why go home and do some more, right? And created, therefore, a very effective, persuasive piece. And I'm sure that I haven't read anything he's done so far this year, but I look forward to it because I'm sure he's doing even better work in 5th grade, right? All right, so if you could pull up, there's a Google Doc that looks like a notebook. So we're going to have you try something with us. Pass all these down. And we're going to teach you a quick lesson You ready, boys? Okay, so probably the hardest thing for kids in Writer's Workshop is knowing what to write about. Most kids get stuck right out of the gate, and they come to the teacher and they say, "Oh, Mrs. Roller, I don't know what I'm going to write about today. I can't think of anything." Right? Have you ever had that problem?
No.
Oh, good for you. So one of the techniques that we do at the beginning of Writer's Workshop is we have kids work on what, from second grade up, we call writing territories. The little kids, correct me if I'm wrong, Giovanni, the little kids do a heart. And inside the heart, they write all of the things that are important to them in their life. And from that heart, we try to get them to create stories about themselves, their friends, their pets, their adventures. But when we move into second grade, we move away from the heart and we start to call this writing territories. Right, Matthew? Okay, so I'm going to share my notebook with them. Okay? All right, so Laura, if you go to the next page, in my writing notebook, these are some of my writing territories. And we literally tell, can you tell me what your teacher tells you to make a list of?
Like special times in our lives.
Special times in our lives, special people in our lives, special things in our lives. And we literally ask the kids to just brainstorm a list. Doesn't matter if they get down 5 things or 500 things. And, we give them 1 or 2 minutes to do some brainstorming. And then we go back and what do we ask them to do, Matthew? What happens next?
Then we start writing about what happened inside.
All right, I'm going to interject the in-between part. You're good. So we go back and we ask the kids to highlight the things that at the moment really resonate. So you can see that on my list in my writer's notebook, I highlighted the Mets, Key West, and my grandma. And then our teacher would tell us, go back to those 3 bullets and find the one that right now seems the most interesting to you. So I underlined my grandma. So my grandma was pretty special, and I spent a lot of time with her growing up. So I have lots of grandma stories. So many that my grandma stories could get confusing. So do you remember what happens next when we pick something we want to think about? Go to the next page, please.
We start writing about, we do the stories inside that we...
Good, the stories inside the story. So we oftentimes have kids create a web. So in the center of my web is grandma, because that's who I'm thinking about. And I start to web off of the main idea all of the different stories I can think about, because my job is not to write the whole history of grandma. That would go on forever. My job is to find the small stories that I experienced with my grandma. And so I listed some of them. I can remember cooking with her. I can remember all the fabulous stories she would tell us. I can remember a wonderful trip to Italy that she took me on. I can remember her babysitting my children when I got old enough to be a mom. So I'm starting to think about all of the possibilities of the stories I could write about grandma. And then the next thing we ask kids to do on the next page is to zero in on one story idea that really resonates and to start to draft a piece on it. Doesn't mean that it will ever become a story, right? Sometimes those beginnings stay in our notebooks and never see the light of day. But sometimes we start to write and we really think that this could be something. And that's how Giovanni got to his baseball book, and that's how Matthew got to his persuasive piece on homework. So I'm going to ask you right now on the first page of your notebook to take a minute and brainstorm some of your writing territories. Want to walk around and see if they're doing a great job? You do that. Just quickly write down some ideas. Who's important to you? Kids always put their pets down. Places that you love to go to. Your favorite foods. We get lots of stories in school about pizza, right? All right, so stop what you're doing and look back at your list. And this is only one of many, many, many lists that kids will create over time. And highlight for yourself 1 or 2 things that you say, wow, that's something I haven't thought about in a while. I really have a lot of stories I could tell about this person or this place. And after you've highlighted one or two, or maybe three, zero in on one that really feels like you could take that somewhere. Does everybody have one? Am I doing a good job? Does everybody have one idea? Go to the next page and then try your web. Put your person, place, thing, event in the center and think, how many stories do I have about Cape Cod? How many stories do I have about my puppy? Giovanni, let me know if I do something wrong here, okay? You have a couple of things in your web? So stop for a minute now and say, which webbed idea really is like right at the tip of my tongue? I could tell that story to the person sitting next to me. That's a good place to begin. And then on the next page, just start to free write about it. Doesn't have to be, you know, a constructed piece. Just start free writing about that puppy dog or that trip to Cape Cod. Should we collect their work and look at it? Give them some feedback? Did we give them enough time? All right, so let's put our pencils down and let's talk about what we did. This is how we try to get kids started. Very often kids, young writers especially, write what we call bed-to-bed stories. They tell the whole thing. So I would have written like my grandmother's biography if I didn't do the webbing and then pull a story out. We want kids to zero in on one thing, but not the whole trip to Disneyland. How did it feel when you were on the roller coaster? Just tell that story. So that's the purpose of having them brainstorm the territories, because most often kids will say they don't know what to write about, but when they think about all the things that are important to them, they actually have a lot of stories to tell, right? I'm sure that Giovanni and Matthew have their territories, and maybe in the course of the whole school year, they won't even exhaust all of their territories. Sometimes they'll go back and they'll write more than one story about one territory because it just holds such interest for them. So this is one activity. I actually saw Carl do this the other day because he's now working at the middle school. And he was in Eileen Callery's class doing this with the 7th grade kids, trying to get them to generate some things. Very often what happens in this last piece when we start to flesh out something is that a story goes in a different place than we thought because we're just free writing. So something, a memory that you thought would start someplace here shifts itself. Carl started to draft a story that was about a shark on Cape Cod, and the story completely shifted to a small moment he had with his son on the shore watching the fin in the water. That wasn't his intention, but that's where his free writing took him. So this is a way of expanding our ideas and getting more thoughts down on paper before we actually say, this is the story that I want to write. And of course, this work is always in narrative writing. So this is actually good because Giovanni's experience was in informational writing, and Matthew's experience was in persuasive writing. So kids write in those 3 genres throughout the school year more than once. Okay? Boys, thank you very much for joining me tonight. Good job. Thank you.
Okay, our next presentation that will be led by Lauren Nyer is an update for everyone on Google for Education. As many of you are aware, our district has embraced the Google platform. We have been using Google Chromebooks. We have been training everyone in all of the potential of the Google platform to support teaching and learning in our schools. We have a number of initiatives underway for our new teachers, for our existing teachers, also for our administrators. We have a number of teachers and staff members who are certified by Google to be trainers. So Laura's going to walk us through where we stand with that initiative, and we'll hear from some of our
I
staff.
think you could use
tell
the
me
other
what to
one.
do.
Yeah, it's just to do the slides. You just
I'm gonna go there.
So go to present.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I just want to make sure.
Okay, so hello.
Do you have the clicker?
So one of the things that I inherited in this position, and I was happy to take over from Dr. Swerdloff, was this initiative the initiative to bring Google into our schools. And part of that process is through Google certification. So this is a program, Google offers this for free. They have a whole suite around education. And there's different levels you can be certified in. And one of the things that we've been doing over the past few years is as our new teachers are coming in, we're asking them to go through the process of getting Google certified. So when you go to Google for Education, there's a variety of apps that people may use in their personal life, in their business world, but also there's some that are really targeted towards education. When our new teachers are coming into the district, these are the levels that we are expecting them to have by the time they go for tenure, become full-time permanent members of Hendrick Hudson. So the first year they're going to go for their certified level 1. So this is a course that can be offered. Teachers can learn this on their own, but at the same time we have Google trainers. So some of our tech coaches have come up with curriculum. They've been able to teach our incoming teachers or new teachers through a full day, and they go through all the various topics that are covered here, such as using Docs, using Google Slides, how to use the Google Classroom, Google Forms, how to use a calendar. Just getting organized in Drive. When you remember the first time you ever used Google, it can be very confusing. So our Google trainers have been really great about teaching our new teachers about this. So when you get certified, you get this exciting badge that you can get put on the bottom of your email. So when you see emails from teachers or other staff members, you might see this level 1 certified educator. They have to sit for a test. It's 3 hours. It is timed. And you have to complete the test within that 3 hours. You have a chance to take it again, but it's sort of, there's a big pressure around wanting to do it, especially in their first year. So then we have level 2. So level 2 is more an advanced version of level 1. This is where you're going to do some things where they're learning how to do video hangouts, they're going to go to YouTube, and they have playlists. These are all things that they can incorporate into their classrooms. So as students grow, whether it's kindergarten all the way to the senior year, they're using the Google Suites in their classrooms with their teachers. And again, these are some of the amazing things that we have our own teachers teaching our teachers. And then by year 3 or 4, the goal is that they're either a certified trainer or they do some digital training. These are some of the badges you can get at this point. So to be a certified trainer, they'd actually have to do some training courses, present, and train others. So I wanted to bring up I had some teachers who volunteered to come, so thank you guys for coming, because I know you all have homework as well, called lesson planning and grading. So they're going to come up, they're going to share a little bit of their experiences, because they've been recently trained over the past few years, and also shared sort of what they're doing in their classrooms using Google. So Shirley, come on up. So where's the, can you click on her name?
You have the clicker right there.
You have to click on her name.
Sorry.
So good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Shirley Reith, and I teach Regent Earth Science at the high school. So far, I've done 2 levels of Google training, and both experiences have been very rewarding and positive for me. I saw this as an opportunity for me to grow some of my professional skills as our society and workforce move towards this age of information. But I think what I found was that through my training, I found it very valuable to be sharing and reflecting and talking with other colleagues in the room. So I think that this networking and talking to other teachers and sharing ideas on how to use these apps was just equally as valuable as the training itself. On a personal level, I think that in the beginning, Google apps did not come very natural to me. I was stuck in the Microsoft world, and as I transitioned into the Google app, I found it very hard to understand the syncing relationship between all the different ins and outs. But as I looked more into it, I realized that what this Google app and the whole package does is it helped me to kind of decenter myself as the intellectual authority in the room and allow more student learning, allow students to kind of share the stage with me in the classroom. So it streamlined the learning and grading and feedback. So these are some of the thoughts that I took away from this whole training experience. There are two apps that I really enjoy using, and I want to take some time to share those two apps.
You have the clicker there.
Okay. The first one is Google Site. This is my Google site, and I spend a lot of time working on it. I'm obsessed with it, and I think it looks clean, it looks professional, and I really think that it helped me to really organize where I want everything to be located for the student as well as parent. Now, here's an example why networking in the training is so important. I was stuck on this problem. I couldn't figure out when I was doing the Google site how I could organize my notes in a particular order, such as like this. So one of either in training 1 or in training 2, there's always a teacher who's very good at certain apps, and one of the teachers showed me that once you save the doc, all you have to do is just to number it. And when you number them 1, 2, 3, 4 in front of the file name, Google will automatically put them in order. So things like that just made me so excited, and I was just so happy to finally be able to problem solve this whole challenge that I had as I was working through this. Google Earth is what I use the most in my classroom. And here's an example how Google Earth has expanded since the first version. Here, I was able to embed a New York State geological map onto Google Earth as we were navigating through the different geological settings throughout the state of New York. So I think what I love about this is basically the visual and how it can connect with the world, in a 2D world and match into a more, kind of 3D world, if you will. Because on Google Earth, you can actually move through these into the different 3 dimensions, such as this. Wow. This map was embedded onto Google Earth, and this is called a KML file. As I was embedding this topographic 2D map, Google allows you to fold this into the same 3D shape of the landform. So now, the learning becomes a lot more interesting. For example, you can start by asking students and changing the opacity of this map and ask them, what is the contour line there as you see, and how it compares to here as the land becomes more gentle. So they're trying to, this Google experience really taught me to not just look at things in one way, but really kind of incorporate as many things as you can to sync everything together so they can see and problem solve and understand one concept in many different ways. So here, they can really see, okay, this is what map shows, how this matches with the real life of the land, the real dimension of the land. A simpler version of Google Earth is called Google Tour Builder. And Tour Builder basically allows the user to put text, photo, and video all in one package. So again, to combine all these elements, provide visuals for the student like no other app. Here's an example that we worked on as a class. We were trying to understand the water crisis in California, And these marks allow students to see why California is so much richer in water in the northern part, and yet 1/3 of the population live in the southern part. So how can we bring water from here down here? And so these place marks allow them to investigate the different farmland, where they're located in relation to the rivers, to the aqueducts, and to the reservoirs, and come up with a solution on their own. So these are just two of my favorites. So as they are clicking on the place mark, for example, they can see the Orange Cove farmland. They can think of some kind of initiating questions. They can answer some of the questions, and this app allows you to embed a video, and you can even show a video of the area if necessary. So again, I think this experience not only allowed me to, going from 1 to 2 especially, not only allowed me to just think about Google Apps in terms of forms, docs, or anything else that we use as a district, but really to provide a different types of visual for students, and to put science onto the map, and to link science with perhaps social studies or other disciplines, because now there's the tool that allows them to do that. So this is just one example of my work, and I'm sure that my colleagues will have ample of other examples to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Shirley's next step now is to become a trainer, right, Shirley? Okay, so Ms. Geiger, I actually printed yours out for you because yours are a little bit more text-based.
Thank you. Thanks, Stephanie. Just want to drop them with you.
Yeah, we have them.
Yes,
Yep. So, I'm Stephanie Geiger. I teach at the high school. I teach science as well. I need the clicker too. I used to be Stephanie McQuaid until this past summer I got married. So thank you. Now I'm Stephanie Geiger, and I wore my very cool Hen Hud Biomed scrubs today because it is Scrub Wednesday. So just like the football team is going to wear their jerseys every Friday, the Biomed crew, we always wear our Hen Hud scrubs to show that we're part of the Biomed program. So I teach chemistry, I can teach physics too, and I'm part of the Biomed program here. The Biomed program, if you don't know, is 4 elective courses that kids take on top of their regular course load. And it is 1-to-1 laptops. There's no textbook involved, and they work off of what's called a learning management system that we get the curriculum from. But I've incorporated Google completely into my LMS. So I just wanted to show you, I focused completely on Google Docs because I could do a 30-hour presentation on all of the different apps. I could literally talk about Google Forms for 30 minutes. But I thought that talking about collaborative work was a little bit more, interesting. So in Google Docs, which is the only thing I focused on, here, this is an example of, this was last week, one of my students' case reports, which is a lab report that they're doing. And what I do here is I'm commenting. So I'll highlight here, and then you can see my face there. There are my comments to them. And so students submitted to me a rough draft. I went through and gave them comments on their rough draft, and then we sat and we conferenced. They had time to review my comments first, and then we sat and conferenced and went through how they could improve and what they needed to do. They could ask me questions, things like that. That way that when they submit it the next time, they get my feedback and they can resolve those comments, and they can even comment on my comments while we're conferencing, which just gives them a little bit of more information. What we do, though, all the time is that kids work on collaborative Google Docs. So what you'll see here is there are 3 girls on this doc at the same time, and as they type you can see what they are saying. I took their names out, so that's just the color there. But the idea is that it's shared with all of the group members, so they're always collaboratively taking notes and working on the same lab report or on the same document. And when I'm shared on it, I can peer into what they're doing and see exactly what they're commenting on, and sometimes I'll highlight things and comment back to them and give them live feedback. So the weird thing about my classroom is it looks like I'm on the front on my computer while my kids are all on their computers, but we're all communicating and I'm peering into their work. So it's just a different way to work. Today it was the most beautiful day. All you hear was typing. So here's another example. These are collaborative conclusion questions. And so the students work collaboratively on these. So one girl chose to be purple. We asked them to color code their work so that we can tell. And then another girl here, it just happens to be that I chose this one group. She's blue. So if you see here, there's this warm and cool comments. So what they do is they'll work on an assignment together. Each of them will take ownership of 1 or 2 or 3 of the problems, but then they all have to pick one that they review and leave their feedback for their peers. So it's a way for them to do some peer reviewing of each other's work, and it allows me to see what they're thinking about in their critiques. It really gives me a better idea of what they're doing. And then this is one of the ways that I monitor group work is through the version history. So I can go into the version of Google Docs and see everything that every kid has typed for the whole length of the document. And so that's how I grade them on how much they participated in their group work. So if I see that they didn't type anything, I know that they didn't earn as many points as the other students. So you can see that this student happens to be orange. I took their names out, so that's why this looks like this. But that's what they were writing there. And then this blue is actually this kid here. So the idea is by using the version history, they know I can tell when they're working on collaborative work who did what in the group, and it just allows for more equitable teaching. And so there's some pictures. Here is, these are my chemistry students. They just finished this project, and it was a maker project where it was very hot the first 2 months of school. Now, the first week of school, it must have been 95 degrees in my classroom every single day. So this project is, when we're learning about heat and energy, they built a prototype of a portable cooling device that they could sell to their classmates. And they built them, they're in, if you go into the high school, they're across from the guidance office right now in the case there. And this is what I call a high-tech, low-tech project. So what you'll see is that all the kids are working on a collaborative portfolio. They have all of the questions up front. Everything is posted through the Google Classroom and shared with them. But you'll notice here, these girls are using X-Acto knives and hot glue, and they're creating their prototype while their partner is here actually typing away. And so that is kind of how we do our workflow. This group's project is right here. It's actually a thermos mug that they altered to make it into a little portable cooling device. But the cool thing about that one was that it actually could also be a heating device. They did all their research, and so they did their research online. They came together and made a design through Google Draw, and then they went on to make their portfolios. And then this slide is also the same thing. These are also chemistry students. That's your son right here. From 2 years ago. Yeah. And they're working, same idea. This is, these are on Chromebooks. So this is in my old room there. And so you'll see some high-tech and some low-tech going on at the same time. And this is the Project Lead the Way students doing some different activities. So these kids are actually doing urinalysis. They're taking some data on some urine samples, and then they are going to be using their computers to collaborate on their lab reports. These students are working on a case report, and notice they're all working together. And you can see on the printout maybe that they're actually all on the same dock. So you can see that they're typing simultaneously and working together. And then these ladies, same thing, they're working on their laptops here, and this was during a different lab. So the idea is that they're constantly just communicating and collaborating and working together. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So this, you had asked me to put up Google, so I don't know how if you want to try to do it on the computer.
All right.
So I'll talk really quickly and then I'll
Okay.
go on to Google Earth.
All right.
So hi, my name is Gloria Ibanez. I teach 3rd grade, and actually it's been very enlightening hearing some of the high school people and seeing where these students will go. So I'm going to show you Google Earth from a 3rd grader's perspective. One of the first units that we do in social studies is really talking about landforms, and instead of printing pictures, I wanted to show my students Google Earth and really take them and let them explore Google Earth. So I'm just going to I'm gonna have to type.
Bring the mouse.
Take
Bring
the
the
mouse.
mouse with you.
The keyboard is wireless as well.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the keyboard too. Thank you. Sorry guys, bear with me. So when you get to Google Earth, you come up to this search bar, and one of the first things that we did as a class was type in Grand Canyon. And as you can see, the Earth is starting to move, and so the students had an opportunity to look at just the very top of the Grand Canyon. And we talked about, okay, what do we think these lines are? What do we think the brown is? What do we think the green is? And it's really interesting hearing them say, oh, I think it's mud, I think it's dirt, I think it's rocks. So they come up with really creative answers. What really got them, and what I always find really cool, when you drag the person and put it into any spot, it zooms in, and now we are standing in the Grand Canyon. So for a 3rd grader who may have not ever been to the Grand Canyon, and I'm 23, I've never been to the Grand Canyon either. So for me and the students, it's beautiful to take a look and look at how close you can really see the rock formations, the lines. So for these little guys, and hopefully they'll have a chance to take your earth science class, but for these little guys looking at landforms, they really have an opportunity to go in depth and really explore. And we looked at the Swiss Alps, we took some requests, we looked at Jamaica, we looked at Hawaii. So they had a lot of fun really exploring these different ways. And again, you can zoom in, you can zoom out, and then go back to the Earth. So the first day I kind of took the students through it myself and had them say, oh, we want to go here, we want to go here. And then the second day they worked with partners and they had an opportunity to choose one continent that they wanted to focus on. And it was interesting to hear them see the comparisons and see, oh, you know, in North America, like, we have a lot more green, but in Australia there's a little bit more brown. In Antarctica it's a lot of white. They didn't like Antarctica because it was too much white. So, you know, they had an opportunity to really take a look at different areas. Would anyone like to make a request? Okay. I'll show you the Swiss Alps because they really enjoyed this part. Again, I've never been to the Swiss Alps, but so I can drag my person, drop him in, and then we can zoom in and take a look at the Swiss Alps. Look at how beautiful that is. Isn't that cool? So anyways, I really enjoy Google Earth.
Somebody got it.
So I really enjoy Google Earth, and the students really enjoy it. And again, they really just have that opportunity to explore and take their learning to a whole new level.
Nice job. Thank you.
So as you can see, these are teachers who are just learning the basics and then are really starting to dive in. So we have one last teacher who's going to speak, Kyle Sina. He's brand new this year. He's working at the high school academy. He's our English teacher. Kyle came on board and right away this summer already became Google certified level 1, level 2, and he already wants to become a Google trainer. So he's really hopped onto this.
I have nothing to help you.
Here, I'm gonna.
Oh, and
You're in the team. Did I do it? Is that what
Go
it
back.
is?
Nope. Forward.
Yeah.
Go back. Kyle.
I cannot click on it. There you go. My fine motor skills are covered.
Okay, great. Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
So, went through boot camp 1 and 2 this summer, and it was awesome, excellent trainers, and even we went through a lot, same apps and everything like that, but like Gloria said before, just talking about the different ways we've been using it has been a lot of fun for us, and getting to see like Google Earth, that was really cool. Okay, so I'm going to go over a few ways that I've been using Google in Academy English. For those of you who don't know, it's a cohort of all 4 grades, so it's 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And one of the first things that I'm going to go over is the organization of information. One of the really nice parts about Google Classroom is that you can use it for all of your resources, your slides, your notes, whatever you have for students at all times. So you're removing the chance of the, I forgot that at home. Could I have another copy of that? Or, I had it, but I forgot it somewhere, anything like that. You're removing any chance for failure in that way. At all times throughout the school year, until a classroom is archived, students will have access to this. So this was a project that we were beginning with my senior class right now, talking about banned books, banned art. So this is 2 articles that they were analyzing with a graphical organizer, and the slides that were presented both on the smartboard, but they could also go through it through their notes. And if we get up to January or something like that, and we're talking about similar subject matter, and they want to go back and reference it, they have the access to do that. They can go back through the entire year if they want to and look at different lessons. One of the other nice things about using the Google Suite in the classroom is that you have the option to present information in a multimodal way, meaning that students have access in different learning styles. So this one, we're combining textual and visual options for students, chunking information, but you also can allow for, in this case, Google Slides, it doesn't have to be static. So students have access to this slideshow on their Chromebooks, and when we were finishing up this lesson, there's a hyperlink in there for them to click on a Google form to fill out an exit ticket. So we get one last bit of checking for understanding towards the end. Now, both of those options are still kind of traditionally based. One of the really cool things, sort of like with Google Earth, that you can do with the Google Suite is push beyond traditional things that you could do in the classroom to do something that you couldn't do without the use of computers and technology. So at the beginning of the year, what I did for all 4 cohorts was start a portfolio project with them. Now traditionally this could have been a binder or a folder. They might have put some design elements on it, something to make it their own. Have some voice and choice in the matter. But using the Google Suite, not only were they able to really take ownership of it in a bunch of different ways, but they were also able to get their tech literacy up by using Google Drawings, Google Slides, Google Docs, and sharing them for peer editing. So I'm going to show a couple examples of the portfolios that we have. They are book covers, and we're going to edit them throughout the year as we change things thematically. I also got the option to, or the chance to talk about usage rights with images for some of the students, which is good. But some students also opted to use their own photos and really pulled some excellent ideas together. Wrote about themselves, took some interesting design choices, and it gives them personal ownership in a much more advanced way and honest way, I think, than just writing your name on a folder or something would have done like in the past. And so throughout the year, they will be creating a book. It'll serve as a portfolio in that it'll show growth, allow them for the chance to be metacognitive about what they've done throughout the year, but they can also look at it as a creative work that they're developing as we go along. Okay, and lastly, can you tell I'm nervous? Thank you. Lastly, the ideas for going forward, going back to this idea of voice and choice in the classroom, I would like to create an environment where students are using technological skills to display traditional skills that we would see in the classroom. One of the ideas for this would be if we're talking about research and analysis, well, we could do a podcast where we're presenting evidence that we've researched in a way that we hear on NPR or any number of other places, where we're still displaying the same skill set, but we're doing it in a way that gets to a student's strengths or a student's interests. Same with creating video content. It'd be one thing to have a student write a play, but if they actually blocked out the scenes and acted it out and were able to create different effects for it and things like that, that would be another way to let students choose a different option in the classroom. Plus, and this is an important part too, we get into the idea of digital citizenship and ethical and safe use of technology in the classroom. For example, if you're going to talk about YouTube, you can talk about, like we've talked about during training, unlisting videos, keeping things private, making sure that you're in a walled off space. Also remembering that the people that you are interacting with on the internet are people, and that is an important thing to try and reinforce too at the same time. So it's an option to go through digital citizenship while also allow students to display things multimodally. That's where I'd like to go. That's where I'm hoping to go through the rest of the year. Anyway, thank you very much. And I gotta say, thank you to the board and to the administration, everyone here who let us go through this, and especially as a new teacher to just jump right in and have the option of getting Google certification off the bat was just a really unexpected and great thing to have. So, thanks.
Yeah.
So as you can see, we have some amazing, and these are all some of our newer teachers. Some of our other teachers have shared, and you have this in your handout, and it is posted on our agenda. Some of their written reflections, they couldn't be here themselves, but they shared different perspectives. So we have a special education teacher, we have a physical education teacher, another special education teacher, music teacher, social studies teacher. So for example, Lauren Morabito, high school orchestra teacher, she uses this, and I know Mr. Akers uses it as well. They have students record themselves playing, they put it on the Google Classroom. The teachers can then respond to them and give them feedback on their individual playing. That has really changed sort of the culture of what homework looks like and what practice looks like for them as a music department. So it's just really, there's so much to be tapped into with Google, and again, I think what's been so amazing about all this is this has been done in-house with our own people, training our own people. Like I said, Kyle already, he's only been here for a month and a half or so, already wants to be a trainer and jump on board with that. So we welcome all of the teachers, being able to turnkey this and really support each other. So Kyle brought up a really interesting point, digital citizenship. So this is to come. I know Lisa got to hear us talk about this at our tech leadership meeting, but our next step is to really think about what digital citizenship looks like in the district. And as you see, you have two illustrations in front of you. One's for the younger level and one's for the older students. So this is where we're starting to really develop some ideas. Dr. Muller and I are working with some of our technology coaches to really design what this is going to look like K-12. As we're bringing in all this technology, we also have to make sure that we're doing it in a safe way and teaching our students to be strong, good digital citizenship. So we're kind of right now in the phase of what does a good and HUD digital citizen look like. So more to come. Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks. Any questions? I would like to thank everybody who presented. This is very exciting to see everybody so involved in Google and the writing program, and I thank everybody who presented and everybody who's involved in this.
Oh, I'll get the light.
Okay, so we switched and we now have committee reports. Do you have anything?
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Very important independent technology.
You speak up just a little.
No, sure. I was just trying to think what the committees I've been to lately. Safety committee met
Yes.
since we last had our board meeting, and we went over the plans for the security improvements that are planned for each of the district buildings, which was similar to the presentation that was made at the Board of Ed meeting. And I think it's moving along. They're planning out different ways of making the badges safe for everybody, so that there's ways of demarcating who is what in the buildings. Like if you're a visitor, regular visitor, or if you're somebody who comes in and is there like every day to do technology stuff or whatever it might be, versus a teacher or a staff or
whether we're color coded.
Yeah, color coded
right.
types of things to make sure.
Anybody? No. We had audit committee. Do you want to say something? No. Good shape.
Yeah, I mean,
we're in excellent shape.
We reviewed the numbers. It was an unqualified audit opinion, which is great. There were no significant comments. There were no material misstatements. Everything looked great and was as expected. I think the auditors did an outstanding job.
They did. Okay. Next, we're moving to audience comments on agenda items. And again, I'd like to reiterate, please make sure if you're going to speak that you've signed up. Each speaker is permitted 3 minutes. All comments must be directed to our board. The board will listen to comments and input, but we will not debate or discuss items. And some items may have to be put to other people to be able to speak about them. The board is not permitted to address personnel or individual student matters in open session. The board will limit repetitive comments in order to give time to others who wish to speak. So that being said, do we have anybody who signed up?
No.
Nobody. Okay.
I didn't sign up, but I got a comment.
Okay, sign up.
Hi.
You have to sign.
Step ahead.
Oh,
Talk.
it's just
You have to sign over there.
simple. I mean,
You have to sign first, Chris.
where am I signing?
Thank you.
Sorry. Just a comment. I'm wondering, the meeting's down here for a reason, I guess. The only 2 board meetings I've been to before have been up at the high school.
Right.
It's kind of didn't seem like there was enough room for the people back here. Is there an issue at the high school where we can't have the meetings there? Is there something going on tonight? I'm just curious. Is it possible to have these meetings at the high school in the library that can accommodate more people? And I encourage more public to come out and attend these.
Oh, all right. We'll address that under board comments. That's coming up.
So is something going on in the library tonight that we couldn't have it there, or?
We'll respond in a second, a little later in the agenda, just a couple minutes.
All right, thanks.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? All right. Then we are on to board comments.
So part of a number of discussions, Chris, to answer your question that the board has had, one is a safety concern about the high school. If you were at or watched the presentation from 2 weeks ago, there are going to be significant renovations to the high school with safety and security in mind. And the board felt that when we had meetings at the high school, it actually perpetuated unsafe conditions. We had us in the high school, we had visitors, we had different presenters, and the idea was to create or identify a space in the district that would create the safest environment that wouldn't impact the rest of the schools, or that we wouldn't have to have a high number of staff patrol the building to make sure people didn't end up in the wrong place. So safety was a major concern. Throughout the rest of the year, we have a number of conflicts with not just the space but also parking. As we get into holiday concert season, as we get into academic awards, as we get into a plethora of other events that the high school hosts, We ran into parking issues, we ran into access issues. Many of those events would like to be able to use the high school library for whatever they're doing, so we wanted to be able to vacate that space. And the third issue, and these aren't in any particular order, the third issue is that when our staff set up and tear down for a board meeting at the library, sometimes we have to actually close the library to students in the afternoon on that Tuesday or on that Wednesday, so staff can set up, they can tear down the existing library, set up the library for board meetings, and then we also have incurred overtime costs to bring in different custodians into the high school or bring them in on an overtime basis to tear down the board meetings late on Wednesday so the library could be available. So all of those reasons the board discussed in its retreat. I think there were a number of discussions over the last few public board meetings about moving some of the meetings to here. It is tight and it is a little cramped. We're going to try to work on that. For example, we have a couple board members that weren't able to make it tonight, so we have some extra tables, and we had seating arrangement for them, so we might be able to create some additional space. But it was safety, it was cost, and it was access that the board discussed. And I don't know if I missed anything
Now,
else.
I will also say that some meetings will be back at the high school just because, you know, when we have 10-year celebration or really large presentations that we need bigger space, it will either be back at the high school or it could even be at the public library. But it's just, it became a little difficult to have the meetings continue at the high school library. So that's why there were a number of factors that we identified during our retreat that we felt that this was a better place. And this is actually where the original meetings were held. You know, when the board first started, it started here because the board can actually see things better than sitting at the table format that we had when we have to use the library. So this is actually a better format for the board to be able to have better work sessions than it is at the library. So I think a number of things the board just felt, let's try it back here for a while. And, you know, as I said, we're going to have to go back and forth for a number of different things. And that's why we have to make sure that we, you know, tell the public in advance where we're going to be, so, you know, we keep that open. Right.
If we could just keep in mind all those things that you said, makes sense, but just provide adequate space for the public
Absolutely.
to attend these meetings also.
Absolutely.
That's all.
And I don't think
That's all.
it's anybody's intent not to have adequate space. I think we have to redefine our space here so that we can have better space for the public.
Okay.
So I apologize if it was cramped back there. It's our first time trying this back again, so thank you. Okay, any more board comments? That being said.
I do.
I'm sorry.
We had our first meet, the board had its first meet and greet, so we did this because this is what the public asked for. So if we're gonna continue with them, the public should try to show up at them, right?
Well, I would like to say in that regard, we are going to be at the different PTA meetings doing safety presentations. So we will be out, Mr. Hochreiter, Beth Gruber, and myself will be out at the senior citizens clubs talking about the improvements in safety that we're doing, and presentations will be at the various PTA meetings. So we are out there. Our last meet and greet on Saturday, Lisa was there, and Bill Aricchio and Mr. Hochreiter, and we did have 2 people come. That being said, I think we're going to kind of, instead of having it every month, due to the holidays and everything where people are tending to be a little bit busier, we'll hold off till January or February to have another meet and greet. And as I said, we will be at all the PTA meetings, so please know to come with your questions. And if you're interested in finding out if you didn't watch the board meeting where the presentations were given, or you feel you need more definition as to what your children's school in particular is doing to improve safety or improvements with the bond, please know to come out. So that's it. All right? That being said, then, can I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming out tonight.